There we go. Okay, we're live. Hello and welcome to the pregame entertainment to our ROTOWORLD live draft show. I'm your host, Jared Johnson, joined by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Zach Hanshew. And we got a special guest today, Mr. Alex Rikleen, senior basketball writer of ROTOWORLD. How you fellas doing?
RotoWire, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
ROTOWire.
You work for RotoWorld.
From the jump. My bad. My bad. ROTOWire. Okay. Before we get to it, I just got a little ad read to do. The basketball season almost here, and you can get a jump start on your draft with a ROTOWORLD fantasy draft guide. Get players, expert rankings, mock drafts, and more. Use code HOOPS5 at checkout and get yours for just $5. Go to NBCSportsEdge.com/edge plus today. There we go. We got through it. Hey, so what we're going to do today is we are going to go through an 8-cat roto draft, mock draft. But it looks like we've got a couple bots in the room. That's okay. This is just going to show us why you should definitely always set your pre-draft ranks, right? If you show up late to a draft, you don't want to get an auto pick, but an auto pick of Joel Embiid honestly is not that bad. We're right in it, fellas. Nikola Jokic off the board, Joel Embiid number 2. I think those are fine first picks. Where are you fellas drafting at?
I'm pick 8.
You are 8. And we see Zach taking Giannis with the number 3 overall pick in a roto draft. I know that, Zach, you wrote our punting column, and you suggested that you can punt in a roto format. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, you can punt in a roto format. Obviously, it's not something that's easy to do, and it's not something that you can do as easily as you do in head-to-head format. Just because in a head-to-head format, you can punt. I mean, if you're really skilled, you can punt 4 categories and win the other 5 every week. In a roto format, every category counts because everything is accumulated throughout the season. So much harder to punt in a roto format. Obviously, you see here with Giannis, the big caveat with him is you're likely punting free throw percentage. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do here. But that's probably about the only category that I will be able to punt here. My choices were Kevin Durant or Giannis, and I just kind of wanted to keep things a little bit fun today and try out some things with Giannis as my first pick.
Yeah. I think that if you're going to punt, Giannis is certainly a good guy to do it with. Alex, you went with Stephen Curry. I think that's a fine selection. Stephen Curry at number 8.
Choice at 2, so I'm delighted to get him at 8. I think he's really being underrated this year. I think that people are sort of over-indexing on his shooting slump from last year, bringing down his numbers. I don't think there's any reason to believe that that's going to continue. He already started pulling out of it in the playoffs and during the end of the season. And he's a fantastic value who doesn't hurt me anywhere. But has skills where, I can switch to a punt if you want, but I do try to avoid that in roto, even with Giannis. There's a point where Giannis is a great value in any format, but my preference is not to punt in roto, and Curry sets you up fantastic for that.
Yeah, it's just hard when you have that one, So I went with Cat. I don't know. I feel like I get him in almost all my leagues this season. I've been picking towards the back end a lot, but I'm fine with that. I bumped him up a little bit with all the bigs going down. Bigs are just abnormally scarce this year, particularly shot blocking bigs. So I just wanted to set that up nicely right from the jump. And Cat is a guy. He has a nice roto game. I was hoping that I might have been able to get Tyrese Halliburton, but Dan took him at the end. Oh, that's not Dan Besbris. That's a different Daniel. We have 3 Daniels in this draft. A little bit confusing. But yeah, that's an interesting one right there. The round one closed out with Trae Young and Tyrese Halliburton. That is a nice starting combo.
I think Zach, I think you've been in some of our mocks or real drafts that we've been doing, and I think you're also on board with Halliburton as a first round value this year. I think if we let him fall to Jared's second pick, then we would be neglectful in our jobs. I think he should be going earlier.
Absolutely, man.
So I am going to go with what may be a controversial pick. I am higher on this fella than I think maybe the entire industry, but I think it's excellent value. I can't remember the last time you could get Anthony Davis in the second round because it's never happened before. Maybe his rookie season or something, but he has been a top 5 pick forever. So for me, with the disparity of centers and just to get AD and Cat from the jump, I think that's an excellent combo. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and supposedly they're supposed to be running the offense through Anthony Davis this year. I mean, those are the rumors, right? So, I mean, if all that comes into place, can he get back to being his, New Orleans Anthony Davis? Are we ever going to see that again?
I mean, those are the rumors every year, but I do think he's a fantastic value there. Even when they're not running through the offense through him, he's still top 10 value when he's on the court. So I think the only risk is injury and other players get hurt too. I think he's a fantastic pick in the second round. And I also have him in a bunch of, getting him in that 13, 14, 15 spot. So I love that pick for you, Jared.
Thank you. Yeah, you actually, in one of our mocks, you selected AD right ahead of me in the second round. So I knew that I had to go with them. This is an interesting team. We've got someone got Damian Lillard and Kyrie Irving as a combo. That's a lot of scoring. How do we feel about Kyrie Irving as a second round pick? Do we trust him?
Kyrie Irving, there are two problems, which is the first is I don't want to root for him. Like, I just am sick of this person and I'm sick of reading about him. I don't want to add a reason for me to be checking the box score for him. And so he gets knocked down a spot or two in my ranks just because I don't want to be cheering for him. But also, even before he was kind of a crazy person, he was one of the biggest injury risks in the league. And, then he went AWOL, like even without the vaccination stuff, like he went AWOL from his team for weeks. And we've kind of glossed over that and just forgotten about that. He's the most unreliable star there is. If he plays, he's incredible value in the second round. Who knows? He could play every game. He could, claim that he was abducted by aliens. I find both equally probable. If you drafted him, hope for the former.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we've got Kyrie followed by Paul George. That's pretty darn good value. Risky though. LeBron James, the ageless LeBron James. Oh, that was you, Alex, with Paul.
Yeah,
George.
I took Paul George. Just going by my board on that. The health risk is obviously there for him as well, but he's another reliable top 10 play when he's playing. And who went right before him? I would have been a little bit more excited had Anthony Davis fell to me, but you took care of that. And I felt like it gave me more optionality than some of the other players. Fred VanVleet, I'm a little afraid of him falling off a bit. I think that there's like a mini cliff after Paul George in terms of on-court production. Booker I considered, but I think his ceiling is slightly lower than Paul George's. And I think that there are some good centers available in the third round this year, which, they dry up quick after that. But I think that you can still, I felt fine, getting two really good players who are guard and wing. And I feel confident, Sabonis is still there. Siakam's still there. Gobert's still there. Oh, Gobert just went. But we're getting close to my pick, and there are still a few centers available to me.
Yeah, this is interesting how this turn went at the end of round 2 going into 3. We got Bradley Beal coming off the board. Now, you could argue that's a reach, but I don't hate it. We've seen Bradley Beal. I've got him as late as round 4. But, this is a guy who's certainly capable of first-round value, and I think that last year's top 40 campaign is going to be an outlier in terms of his entire career. Bradley Beal, followed by another reach. This one I would say is a reach, KP. How do y'all feel about KP, Kristaps Porzingis, at the top of round 3?
I definitely like him better in a head-to-head format. Roto kind of scares me a little bit, but I mean, if you're just talking about per game value, it's still kind of a reach, right? I mean, he can still be a top 30 guy, top 25 might be pushing it, but I mean, we know what he can do on the court as far as blocks and 3-pointers, points, rebounds. He can give you a little bit of everything. So definitely like KP. I'm a little higher on him than I think most this year, but in a Roto format, yeah, that's definitely a stretch.
Yeah. It's oh man, I do not
it's a
trust
solid
he's going
10
to be there
picks
on the
higher.
floor.
It's a solid 10 picks higher than I would have taken him. He's another one who his per game stats can be amazing, but the injury risks are real. And there's also with KP, there's a role risk that there isn't for someone like Kyrie when he's playing, he's going to play. What his role is. With KP, there's a slight risk that his role changes because his just actual basketball value isn't the same as Kyrie's basketball value. So Porzingis is incredibly talented, but there's that added element of risk. I'm going to do something kind of interesting. I think kind of interesting. I'm skipping center for my next. I wanted either Siakam or Sabonis. Both went in the 2 picks right before me. And even though I'm still centerless, I think Cade Cunningham's kind of a value in the 30s. So I took him right there at whatever pick that was, 32. He's 21st on my board. I feel like that's just a lot of value to be passing up. My next best center on the board is he's my 29th best player. And Yahoo has him a little bit lower than that. So I'm hoping that he stays around for me. I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
I think Cade. I'm a little bit. Oh, go ahead, Jared.
I mean, I like Cade. My pick's about to dry up. I'm going to get Darius Garland for the first time this season. I think that's fine. Cade, look, Alex, you're projecting a leap here, about 20 picks or 20 spaces, and that's could be a lot. We also have to think about Roto. He's not the best for percentages, but it's an 8-cat league. So that's going to give him a huge elevation already. If you cut off those turnovers, he was top 50 his rookie season. He's going to be better his sophomore year. I'm just why would you go with Cade instead of Darius?
I am very afraid of Darius's role with the now overloaded Cavs. I'm very afraid of what Mitchell's impact is going to be on him there. And I have knocked both him and Mitchell down from, despite, normally a player of that age, their floor is kind of what they did the year before. And I've knocked both of them down a bit. I'm a little bit afraid of these ball dominant Cavs players on what looks like a really good team. So that's why I wanted to sort of stay away from him.
And Zach, who did you pick in the 3rd round?
I went with the Giannis and Rudy stack. I think Alex kind of outlined that when we were in I think right around the turn, is that, big, reliable centers with blocks and field goal percentage were, going to dry up at some point. So I went ahead and got Rudy, paired him with Giannis. My free throw percentage is not going to be very good in this league, but that's okay. I got rebounds. I got field goal percentage. I got blocks. Looking pretty solid right now.
I mean, that's an incredible stack. Giannis and Rudy, and then you got Freddie VanVleet and Giannis and Rudy's just massive field goal percentage is really going to kind of alleviate the harm that Freddie VanVleet does with his little chucking ways. I am going to get my second point guard here. This is a guy who I love, Mr. Drew Holiday in round 4. I think that's excellent value.
And Jared Allen is still there for me. Yahoo has him at 40. He's 41 on my big board, and I needed a center, and I'm thrilled that worked out. That really helps me feel justified in that Cade pick. I like Cade's ability to have a slight jump in his field goal percentage. His free throw percentages were fine. And, with Curry and Jared Allen, I think that I can at least be competitive. I'm on track to be at least competitive in field goal percentage with Jared Allen lifting the load a bit.
I love Jared Allen. I think I have him ranked in the 20s. I would usually have taken him, but I stacked my bigs early, so I went for some guards here at round 3 and 4. But traditionally, JA is my round 3 target. So the fact that he fell, maybe he fell a little bit because this is an 8-cat roto league, and his value is marginally diminished because he does get a bump from limited turnovers. But, his free throw shooting isn't abysmal. It's not something that's going to destroy you. So I think that that's a fine pick. Someone who will destroy you in free throws went right after JA, Mr. Zion Williamson, consistently going in the 4th round. Now, I think that I'm going to ding him a little bit harder in a roto format. Just because you're basically going to have a 1 in free throws.
What's the rest of his team? Yeah, but I mean, he's already got LeBron and Siakam. He's already not a good free throw team. I think he's leaning into the punt, if I had to guess what that team is doing right there.
Yeah.
And if you're leaning into the punt, then okay.
Yeah, kind of doesn't matter. Yeah, that's true.
If you know your team and know your league are the 2 most fundamental building blocks of fantasy strategy. And looks like this person... Yeah, we'll see what their future picks are. But it looks like they might know their team and know their league. And I'm not going to hate on that. I'm actually kind of high on Zion this year. It's kind of fun. I was down on him his last few years, and it's fun to be cheering for one of the most fun players in the league.
Yeah, I mean, watching him play is incredible. Like, there's literally nothing you can do to stop him, and I think that he can realistically average 30 this year. I think one of the more controversial 4th round picks here is Mr. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I am completely off. Do you guys have any faith?
No.
Not in Roto. No, if we're talking head to head, man, I'll take him in the 4th round all day. I think that's a great value.
If we're talking leagues where you count stats, then no. Look, he's fantastic per game. Don't get me wrong, but the Thunder have shown how aggressive they are willing to be about tanking, and the prize at the end of the tanking tunnel this year is better than ever. What's the over under on games for SGA and for Giddey? It's 50, right? It can't. If they play a 51st game, I mean, Presti's going to get into the coach's office and he's going to fire him on the spot. And he's a pretty good coach. Like, you don't want to have to do that. There's no way he plays 50 games. There's no way he sees the court in February. They're just going to reroute him. I think it's a disaster of a pick this early. He's a great value in terms of per game stats, but I think it's a disaster.
You know what was a great pick, though, that came directly after SGA by Mr. Zach right here? Terry Rozier. I think that he is going to have a fabulous season. I think getting him round 4 is incredible value. I've seen him go to round 5, but I don't mind reaching for him. I've done it. Zach, can you elaborate? I don't want to take all your thunder, but I love that pick.
No, you're good, man. And I think I actually listened to you the other day when you were talking with Josh Lloyd about Terry, and felt like, a lot of the same stuff that I heard was things that the way that I feel about Terry Rozier as well, is that we're not going to have Miles Bridges this year. This guy's consistently, a top 40 player. And I think he's going to have another big year. People continue to sleep on him. He's a guy that doesn't get much love in the fantasy community. He's just kind of like, hey, I'm here. You can get me late 3rd or 4th round. And I think right there, he makes a ton of sense. He's a great value.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm lukewarm on Rozier, but I'm always lukewarm on Rozier. His shooting really really bums me out.
But it's been nice the past 2 years. He's like been close to 45%.
Has it actually been that good?
It's been decent. Yeah, I used to be bummed on him too for that same reason. But yeah, he's
45 and 44 last 2 years. I knew it was better. I didn't realize that it was that much better. It's still a volume at that, which is it's still damaging. It's not as damaging as earlier in his career.
right.
I don't have a ton of confidence in it. His rebounding is less than I always thought it would. Early in his career, what was it? His third season when he had almost 5 per game. That's kind of fallen off. I liked that part of his game. I think it's early. He's a fine pick. I think it's a little early, but
I'm going to go with getting hyped on the preseason with this next pick, and I'm going to roll the dice on Tyrese Maxey. He looked excellent yesterday. And I had him pretty high before the preseason started, and I'm allowing the preseason to mess with my brain, which I shouldn't. But look, I think that he's just a really talented guy. People were like, after James Harden got traded to Philly last year, people were like, oh no, Maxey, he's going to fall off. And he didn't. He just continued to play really well. I think that he'll continue to play well this season. And yeah, it's a little bit of a swing. I didn't really see anyone that was jumping out to me round 5. And yeah, I'm fine with that pick. And then there goes the guy who I typically draft, Mr. OG Anunoby, to Mr. Dan Besbris. Yeah,
I like OG this year. I like Maxey. It's a little earlier than I had him myself, but I like the player. I like the possibility for growth. I'm a little worried of what a in-shape Harden will do, and it looks like we might actually, bizarrely, finally get an in-shape Harden. But I am a little worried about that, and I did knock Maxey down my board slightly for that. But especially if you were targeting someone like Brunson, I like Maxey. I find their fantasy games somewhat similar.
So I am going to shore up my centers here. This is a Roto League. I think this guy gets a big old boost in a Roto League. Mr. Jakob Poeltl, not the most exciting pick, but hey, he's a center who can basically get you 10, 10, and 2. And that's valuable.
Yep. Yeah, solid, totally solid pick. I'm somewhat surprised at how high he is on my board this year, but also not surprised. Like he's a good player. And the Spurs are probably going to use him a lot.
We touched on OKC. What we didn't touch on, this is a terrible transition. Zach, can you talk about John Collins and how you feel about him? He went in the 5th round. Do you think that that's good or bad value?
I think that's probably right around his ceiling, right? I mean, so that's probably you're getting him at cost at this point. I think John Collins has consistently, he's done what he's always done. He's a guy that doesn't really kill you in any one category. He's not going to get you a bunch of threes, obviously, but he doesn't really hurt you too many other places. He's not a high turnover guy. He can get you some defensive stats. He's not going to absolutely destroy you in the assist category, but he gets you some points and rebounds, solid shooting percentages, especially for a big from the free throw line. So I think that's fair value to me. I don't think it's a reach, and I don't think it's wow, I snagged him here. So.
You're not worried about him taking a further step back with the arrival of DeJounte Murray?
I think it might knock him back a little bit, but I don't think it's going to kill him. No, I'm not super concerned about that.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about it. I also think that Capella is on the decline. And so I think that opens up some opportunity for Collins as well. And I just really love Jamal. I think DeJounte is going to fit well, and he'll do things to make sure that he fits well.
So we've got Zach on the clock again. His previous pick was McCall Bridges. Oh, and he followed it up with Keegan Murray and round 6. We're getting some reaches here, but I like that one. I think that Keegan Murray can have a huge year. would you like to expand on Keegan Murray, a man who we both love dearly, Zach?
I know, as Rikleen just laughs his butt off here at this point. Look, man. Look, I know it's a little bit of a reach. I know it's early. I don't want 24 picks coming back and me not getting my guy. So to me, I think, and actually I think we've argued about this on Twitter before. So I think for me, yes, it's probably drafting him at, I think he can be better than this. Personally, I think he can be a top 50 to 55 player, in my personal opinion. I think the opportunity is going to be there for him in Sacramento. I think he does so much on both sides of the ball that he's going to be able to rack up stats, scoring, rebounding, threes, percentages, defensive numbers, and he's going to have a ton of opportunity on this Sacramento team. He's going to start from day one. So I want to go ahead and get my guy.
I just think that by taking him this early, you're sucking some of the value out of him. I like Keegan Murray. I actually have him above Jabari in my ranks this year, which is, I think that you guys having him above Jabari is not consensus, and I think that I'm agreeing with you there. And normally the first rookies I put in my ranks, I start in the 90s, and I put all three of Paolo, Jabari, and Keegan in the 80s, which for me, for rookies, is high this year. So I'm not like saying I hate the player at all. I just think that you're sucking some of the potential value out by taking him this early. But don't get me wrong, I am excited about this player, and I think that you'll be happy to have him.
A couple picks before Keegan, one pick before Keegan Murray, we saw Franz Wagner, round 6. Does that feel like a reach to either of y'all? Are we confident that he can?
That's where I have him.
Yeah.
I think. Hold on, I'm on the clock.
Zach,
do I follow my board or do I pick?
Yeah, a little bit of a reach for me. I think he can be great. I mean, obviously he was excellent last year. I think he can be, just as good this year. I do have concerns though with Banchero obviously being drafted. They brought Bamba back on a new 2-year deal. Obviously, I believe in Markelle Fultz, but he's banged up again, so we'll see if he starts the season injured.
it's unfortunate.
So, I have Franz in the late 50s, so I think it's actually a decent value. He's another young guy that I'm projecting a little bit of a jump in. But Jared, you're on the clock, by the way. While Jared's on the clock, I haven't talked about my picks for a second. So my last 2 picks before the one I just made was Chris Middleton and Klay Thompson, who I just want to talk for a second because they're super boring guys, but I think that they're going for incredible values in this draft, and I'm getting a lot of both of them. Klay Thompson started to look better by the end of the year. These kinds of serious knee injuries, often there's a meaningful difference between year 1 and year 2. So I'm expecting a bit of a jump compared to last year. Last year, I think he was in the 50s in terms of his year-end ranks. And if he's improving from that and is getting drafted in the 60s, that sounds like a pretty big value to me. And the Middleton health updates haven't worried me so far. So I bumped him down my board a little bit, but not as much as I think others. And his per game stats are in the 40s every year. He's rock solid 4th round value per game. The only question is health, and I'm not as worried as some.
Yeah.
I think Middleton was a great value for you there too. I really like that one.
Definitely. I have no fears about that wrist. I think he'll be fine. So I took a little bit of a reach here with my 7th round pick. I went with Jalen Smith, but hey, I think that he's going to have a great season, and I didn't want to risk someone stealing him from me. He was followed by Gary Trent. Interesting value. Jeremy Grant at the end of round 7. Now, that's a guy who's been falling. I still think that this is technically falling. Josh would disagree with me. He's not here. Who cares? How do you all feel about both Jalen Smith and Jeremy Grant in round 7?
Love Jalen Smith. Absolutely think that's a great value there.
It's a little. I'm a little worried about what's going on with the Pacers. They've got a bunch of players who are good permanent fantasy producers, but are they going to make a trade? How does that change things? I'm a little worried about a couple of stuff. Yes, on my last pick, my board says go Jamal Murray, but he was off the screen on Yahoo. Yahoo has him all the way down at 111.
Oh
That's
no, I missed one. I missed one.
And so
that's who I should have taken.
And so I
that's
took Horford, hoping that people would miss that I could steal Horford. There's some auto drafters in here, and Horford was second from the top. I was not going to get a second chance at him. And it worked out. Murray came back to me. Murray is a complete steal in the, what round are we in? The 8th round?
8.
That's a complete steal.
Yeah. I took a swing on Jabari Smith. I think that he can have a good year, but man, if I wasn't really looking, we're talking through this. I'm hosting this, but yeah, Jamal Murray. I think that's the pick of this round. Man, if you can get him round 8, sheesh, I would take him round 7.
Oh, happily, yeah. I usually
you could argue round 6. I just think that I'm not worried about, and this injury he was out an entire year, more than a year. So he's had plenty of time to recover. I think he'll be fine. So bravo, sir. And Mr. Zach, you went with Cam Johnson. I like that pick. Jay Crowder is not showing up for camp, not showing up to Phoenix. He is out of there. And I think that Cam Johnson is going to be the starter.
Yeah, I think top 100 value for him. He had that last year, and I think it can be even better this year, and people really aren't paying too much attention to him. So I think if you're in a draft like this with auto drafters or guys that maybe aren't following up so much, I think you can get Cam Johnson at a premium.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a great pick.
And we see a reach. I would call this a reach at the back end of round 8, Mr. John Wall. I have no faith. It's been a really long time since we've seen him. I guess, at this point we're round 8. You're shooting for the moon there, but I'm not sure you're going to hit the moon. I think you're not even going to get out of the atmosphere. So.
He's one of my favorite targets in round 11. I agree. 8th there's still a little too much value on the board for me. So it's almost similar to the Keegan pick. I think you can get better stuff at that point in the draft, but I do have a lot of John Wall on my teams. To circle back to the Jamal Murray thing for 1 second, it's a reminder to know your platform. On Yahoo, you can wait longer for Jamal Murray because he's so far down the default ranks. Mm-hmm. On Fantrax, he's much closer to where he should be going. You're not going to get him in the 8th round. That would be absurd. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have to get him in the 7th or 6th. And so just, a reminder to know your format, know where you are.
Yeah. All right. We're seeing some there he goes. Mr. Julius Randle, who is falling. I think justifiably falling. But man, it's like we're never expecting this guy to come back with how low he's going. I think at this point, that's fine with me. And I would certainly rather have him than John Wall if I'm going to shoot for the moon.
He's much higher on my board. He's much higher in my board.
Let's see. I'm up here a little bit distracted. I have plenty of bigs, so I'm going to go with one of my favorite picks here, Mr. Anthony Simons. I'm not worried about him not meeting this value. If I think I'm fairly confident he'll exceed it. We saw the top 50 upside last year. Yes, Damian Lillard wasn't there, but hey, CJ McCollum was for a portion of it. And, he's essentially stepping into CJ McCollum's role. He's going to be the number 2 option on that team. I think that at this point in the draft, I love that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. He was the top of my board. He was the next pick for me, according to who's available. So I think it's a great pick, especially when once you're in the 100s, most of these players are going to drop. And
right.
The upside for Simons is that he does something like the top 50 that he was putting up for the second half of last year.
And I think with this next pick, after Dan, I'm going to do a little shooting for the moon myself. I've somehow loaded up on bigs, but I'm going to keep on doing it. Let's see if Dan can make his pick. But the guy that I have on my mind, he's going to be available. I have next to no faith that this is a good pick, but if it works out, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is back somehow by Christmas, that's kind of a league-winning thing, and my risk is completely negated. We're at the end of the draft here, only a couple more rounds, so I don't mind making that pick.
I was hoping you hadn't noticed him. I was really excited to pick him and have you get annoyed that he was so far down the board again. It kind of throws me for a loop, actually. I think I'm going to stick to my board here and go with someone who's made for the Roto game, which is Monte Morris.
Interesting.
He's better in a 9-cat league because he's one of the best at avoiding turnovers in the league. I think his role in Washington is going to be pretty good. His shooting is pretty good. I think he's going to be a sort of solid staple as a backup point guard.
And Zach is back on the clock for his 10th round pick.
Backup fantasy point guard.
For this particular league, I do need one more center to fill out my starting lineup. So I'm going to take the guy that would be next on my rankings, if it'll let me pick him. There we go.
Mo Bamba. Interesting swing. I like it. We're so late and we know that this guy has top 50 upside. I'm nervous about how he's going to get the minutes, but I do feel like, man, if he could just get traded out of there, if he could find himself in a different situation, we all know the upside there. So another moonshot pick. I'm fine with it. I like it. Yeah, go ahead.
My concern about Bamba is just how many situations would be better for him. I agree that his talent translates to fantasy in a fantastic way. But if you go through the league, there aren't many teams where he could arrive and I think get that minutes and fantasy bump that we're aiming for. So I don't have a problem with picking him at this point in the draft for his current role, and for the chance that people above him get hurt. But I don't know that optimism you were just talking about is totally warranted. Do you disagree? I feel free to push back on that.
Zach?
No, I don't know if there's going to be a better situation for him either. And I understand the concerns in Orlando about it being a crowded, front court now. And is Jonathan Isaac going to play? I don't think he probably will play very much. That's my opinion. So I'm a little bit higher on Bamba because of it. Bamba played 26 minutes last year and I think 16 minutes the season before. So if you think that Banchero's back and the team's a little bit healthier, you can split the difference right at 21 minutes or so. And I think in 21 minutes he's efficient enough and gets you enough of the big man stats that you want, the blocks and threes, that 21 minutes will be just fine for fringe top 100 value. So that's about where I'm valuing him in this year.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And it could just be an injury that also opens up. And Jonathan Isaac's already injured, so forever. I like your next pick here, Zach. You went with Malcolm Brogdon. This was a guy who I didn't totally love until all these injuries in Boston happened, and now suddenly it looks like his role is going to be more pronounced. Now it doesn't look like he's going to start. That's going to be Derek White. But can you just elaborate a little bit on what you see from Malcolm Brogdon?
Yeah, so from Brogdon, man, I mean, you remember he had the 50-40-90 season in Milwaukee. He was an efficient shooter in years past. Indiana obviously asked him to take on such an enormous role just to lead the team. So I think his efficiency returns this year now that he's in a secondary role where he doesn't have as much pressure on him. I think he can be good for, 6 assists per game, which if you're getting a guy this late in the draft that can get you those kind of assists, to me, that's huge. I think his scoring, his efficiency can be right up there. And as you mentioned, Gallinari is going to be out. Robert Williams is going to be out for a considerable amount of time. So that rotation in Boston all of a sudden really tightens up, and I think he gets some solid minutes off the bench and comes back with that efficiency. I really like him there.
Yeah, I think he's a great value late.
I have no idea who I'm going to pick. Let's go. I'm going to do this one for Noah Rubin. I know that he's high on Norman Powell, so I'm going to take his word for it. Look, he needs to start for sure. But round 11, I could use another guard. He's put up top 50 value before. Probably won't get there, but he should be at least minimum a top 100 player. He's going to give me some points. He's going to give me some triples. A little bit of a boring pick, but potential for upside.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to look at my see who I'm going to get next here.
Well, while you're going, I took Mark Williams with my last pick. I needed a center with Jared taking Jaren, where I was kind of hoping to get him. I was still down one starting center. So Mark Williams wasn't the highest person on my board, but he was the highest center on my board. And I'm not believing Coach Speak at all. I think he's probably the best center on that team. And so I think he's a rookie. It won't be consistent, but I think he's likely to get much more minutes than some people are afraid of. People worrying about Plumlee playing 30 minutes a game. I mean, come on.
I'm going to make this one's a tribute to Zach. I have been both on board and off board, and I think I'm on board again with the potential of this man this late in the draft, Mr. James Wiseman. We have not seen a lot of him at all, but he did look good in those 2 meaningless preseason games. Hey, he has potential. I think he does need to find a role on this team. He is not going to start, but if he can get 25 minutes a night, I think that has potential for him to beat that draft position. And if he doesn't, I'll cut him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in your draft, man, it's all about upside. So, yeah, swing for the fences here.
Speaking of swinging for the fences, I still need bigs. I'm taking my other favorite rookie big.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can go. Yeah. Nerlens Noel is dealing with plantar fasciitis still. So that's what made Duran move up my draft board. I think that he has the potential to see meaningful minutes behind Isaiah Stewart. And they're talking about using Isaiah Stewart at the 4 a lot, which makes me think that they might be trying to give him room at the 5. So that's an intriguing pick. Young center with a ton of shot blocking upside. And that was followed by another intriguing center with Zach, if you'd like to expand on Santi Aldama.
Yeah, otherwise known as Santa Claus, because he's going to be a gift to you in fantasy drafts this year when he inevitably starts at power forward for the Triple J-less Memphis Grizzlies this year. So that's a guy that I think I will be targeting with one of my last couple of picks in a lot of drafts, just because of how well he's performed thus far and a projected starting role. I mean, I think that's what else can you ask for there this late in the draft?
Yeah, definitely a nice swing. And you round out your draft with Summer League phenom, preseason hype god, Mr. Tari Eason. I think that that's an intriguing pick. He needs some of these forwards to get off the team. But hey, whenever he's on the floor, he seems to produce some quality stat lines.
Yeah.
He was.
Philosophically, I support picking rookies in the last couple of rounds. I think that they are the potential win is higher than the potential win for any other player. So even though he's not my favorite rookie to pick, I think it's a great pick just because I think you pick a rookie that you like and take him here.
Yes, well said.
Which is what I'm going to do with my 3rd in a row pick, Benedict Mathurin.
Yeah, he was in my queue there too. It was between him and Eason. I really like Mathurin this year. I'm not super worried about Duarte in the minutes there. I think Mathurin ends up getting that starting role just because of his versatility on defense and excellent 3-point shooting. So I think he'll be starting alongside Halliburton before we know it.
And if not, I drop him. He was my literal last pick.
There you go.
Yep. And I'm going to keep it super boring here. I wouldn't pick this guy before all these injuries, but hey, he's going to start. And Derek White, man, like a couple years ago, people would pick him in the 50s. So he does have upside. A little bit of boring one. Needed a guard. I'm fine with that one.
Some interesting value still undrafted on the board. Jonathan Isaac, the upside is incredible if he ever plays. Dylan Brooks has been, he's not great for Roto, but he does produce. He's likely to produce and play a lot of minutes. Bruce Brown, similar. I I think that it's an interesting amount of value still available, emphasizing why I think you should take big swings with these late picks, because there's plenty to replace it with if they don't show you anything after 2 games.
Okay, well, we got through the draft, so I would just like to ask you fellas before we go how you feel about the teams that you've built, starting with Zach.
I really like the team that I drafted. I got Giannis with my first pick. I kind of chose to ignore the free throw percentages, even though that is a little bit tricky in a roto build. Paired him with Rudy, and I think just having that foundation there, and then I took Mikal Bridges in the 5th round just to kind of shore up that efficiency. And that enabled me to be a little bit more lax with guys with, kind of crappier free throw or field goal percentages like Van Vliet, Sadiq Bey, who I really like, Rozier, who's been a little bit better, but yeah, still not the greatest field goal percentage in the world. And I rounded it out with some of the guys that I really like. And I got my guy Keegan and Colin Sexton, so I feel great about this team.
But also with when you have Rudy and Giannis, you can withstand Rozier.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't thinking about this in the middle of the draft when I was kind of not complimenting this pick, but you can withstand that in a way that other teams can't. And it goes back to know your team, because sitting here looking at your team, not like with a clock beating down, trying to figure out who my next pick is going to be, I don't dislike it as much because of the context.
And Alex, how do you feel about your team?
I really like the values that I got. I got a lot of players meaningfully below where I have them ranked. But I'm a little worried about the cohesiveness, and I'm a little worried about the second center. This is a 2-center league, not a 1-center league. And so you actually have to have multiple reliable centers. And if one of my rookies, if neither of my rookies hit, then that will be a problem for me. So I don't know if the team's going to be cohesive. This is the type of lineup where I might have to make an early trade or two just to make things make sense, to make sure my players are complementing each other. But I'm very pleased with the values that I got. I think a lot of these guys should have gone much before I had a chance to take them.
Yeah, I definitely see some very solid value there. Klay Thompson, Chris Middleton, Jamal Murray in the 8th round, maybe the pick of the draft right there. Yeah, I like your team. And then for my team, just to close us out, I started off with 2 bigs. I like that, especially if you're in 2-center league. Centers are so scarce this season, especially shot blocking centers. So Cat AD, I think that's a strong start. I got some really quality guards with Maxey, Holiday, and Garland. I got that sneaky center with Pirtle, and then I took some swings. I think I'm planting my flag on Jabari Smith, round 8, round 7. I like that one. And then my guy, Anthony Simons, round 9. So that's going to do it. That gives you a taste of what an 8-cat roto draft looks like. Fellas, thank you so much for participating in the draft today. Zach, thank you. Alex, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And we have another draft coming right up, hosted by Mr. Jonas Nader. So that will do it for us, but we got more on the way. And this will all lead in to our live draft show.
Thanks for having me.